As I've mentioned more than once, Russia has had a strong influence on me. Of course, as with any move to a new country, there are changes. Today, I want to share why, after living in Russia, I stopped seeing psychologists and what contributed to that. In America, I used to turn to a psychologist for any personal issue. Contrary to what some might think, this wasn't a habit from childhood, but something I adopted later in life. A large portion of Americans visit psychologists at least twice a month, and naturally, the industry is well developed in the US. I was no exception, and sometimes even scheduled extra sessions. When I moved to Russia, I didn't have time for a psychologist at first, but later I decided to give it a try. The psychologist I ended up seeing surprised me quite a bit. I'm not sure if this is true across the whole country, but my session felt more like a hospital visit, which struck me as odd. Right away, I was asked directly about the issues I wanted to address, my problems, and my phobias. While these were all valid questions, they came across as too harsh. I chose not to continue seeing that specialist, not because I lost faith in Russian psychologists, but simply because I got busy again. After several years of living in Russia, I realized I no longer needed the help of a psychologist. Noticing this change in myself, I decided to analyze why this happened. Here's what I observed. The first thing I thought about was the Russian mentality. While I couldn't fully adopt the mindset of an entire nation, I did change my attitude toward problems. I admire how Russians tackle issues as they come, and I managed to embrace this approach. Another key aspect is the idea that everything can be resolved. Though this is sometimes considered a downside of Russia, it's often simpler and calmer when you have connections, especially for minor inconveniences. I also grew fond of Russian therapy. People around the world drink to forget their troubles, but in Russia they grill shashlik, head to a dacha or sauna, go fishing, or take trips to the forest for mushrooms. Maybe it resonates with me because it happens in another country, but after such outings, I genuinely feel better, and visiting a psychologist feels unnecessary. I'm not saying therapy isn't valuable, but perhaps sometimes it's enough to take a good break and deal with problems as they arise.